Hello, and welcome to a short film about ethics, which, if you didn't know, is the study of morality. In other words, ethics attempts to deal with the issue over what is the right and the wrong action. First of all, it's important to say that ethics can deceive, since it is ever present in daily life. Many people think that ethics can be approachable and quite easy. However, scratch under the surface a little and it's quickly clear that ethics is anything but straightforward. The other interesting thing about ethics, I think, is it provides a great model for how knowledge works. The first issue that I want to talk about is the problem of testing or justifying ethical knowledge claims. In the sciences, you provide experimental evidence. History, you'll look at source material, and mathematics, you're really going to rely on the mathematical logic. However, the case is not so clear when it comes to ethics. One way that philosophers deal with this is to test moral theories using thought experiments. So the burning cat thought experiment is devised really to explore or expose the role that intuition and common sense has in making ethical judgments. Now, the problem with intuition and common sense is that it does not give us the reasons, the justifications that we normally require to support, justify, and evidence any knowledge claim. So other theories, such as utilitarianism, expressed here with the terrorist child thought experiment, and river life, that is used to explore social contract theory. These thought experiments, in a way, encourage people to think about what are the rational justifications and reasons for any particular action. However, there is a major problem with these thought experiments. The fact that they are not real, and real life dilemmas are altogether far more subtle, messy, confusing, and more difficult to think about and decide what is the right action. The structure of ethical study very much mirrors the way knowledge functions, so I think it's worthy to give it a little bit more detail. Here we've got a pyramid model of ethics. So at the bottom you have practical ethics. Now that really forms kind of the largest content area because it's really about every ethical dilemma out there in the world. Normative ethics comes above there, and normative ethics really is used to understand those practical ethical dilemmas and then define what is the right action. Now, for me, this very much represents a relationship between real life situations and theory. So in terms of the TOK course, you've got real life situations and TOK theory, which together produce knowledge. Above that, you have meta-ethics. Now, meta-ethics is really concerned with what are, I would argue, knowledge questions. For example, does moral truth even exist? Especially given that there are different normative theories that we can use to define what is moral truth. And even using one of those theories, it's possible to rationalize different actions. And then you've got the final issue of goodness and what is goodness. So exploring a little bit further meta-ethics and moral language, the first thing I'd quickly like to explain is emotivism. Now, emotivism is an ethical theory based on emotion, and the claim is moral judgments are not analytic and they're not empirically verifiable. Rather, moral judgments are based on our emotional response to an action, nothing more. One way of thinking about this is if I were to say that action is right, that is good, that is really just code for me saying I like that action. On the other hand, that action is bad or that action is wrong. That is code for me saying, I don't like that action. As a result, emotivism is sometimes called the boo-hooray theory, because moral words are expressing no more than an emotive response to a particular action. Other words, such as stealing, murder, these do have an emotive content as well as also being descriptive. Therefore, the purpose of moral language isn't really to state facts as such, but rather to influence behaviour, and at its heart, moral language is a value judgment. The other obvious area of knowledge that deals with value judgments are the arts. The logical positivists were a group of 20th century philosophers who very much criticised ethical and metaphysical language. Focusing in particular on G.E. Moore, he very much had an issue with the word good. And what exactly does the word good mean? If you look here at 3 newspaper headings, you can see that good is used in different ways. And this again links back to language and the idea that language is flexible, ambiguous, and yet meaning is given and understood in use. His argument really is that the idea of good or goodness is unanalyzable. For example, a hedonist or a utilitarian would claim that the good action is what makes people happy and the right action makes everybody happy. But Moore would say there is a disconnect there between making people happy and what is good. That connection is not clear. A divine command theorist would argue that the good action is what God wants. Therefore, this argument, the naturalistic fallacy, is a fantastic justification for emotivism, since there are no moral facts that are independent of our beliefs and attitudes. If Moore is right, we got a real problem. It appears that ethics is based on our emotions, and that means that any moral decision is arbitrary, very much subjective, and can be different from one person to another. This results in the idea that either there are many moral truths or there is no moral truth at all, because talking about moral knowledge really makes no sense if everybody has a different understanding of what is the right action. Notwithstanding mathematics, which has the best claim to objective knowledge, relativism poses particular problems for pretty much all other areas of knowledge. It's attractive in that it avoids the need of providing a logical certainty and justification for truth claims. However, at the same time, it's also unsatisfactory because it means that all knowledge claims are really little more than opinion. And in ethics, as much as in the natural sciences, this doesn't really seem palatable. As always, thanks very much for watching. As you will appreciate, that was a very broad and quick summary of ethics and how it fits within the top course. The main things that I wanted to get across was, first of all, how ethics functions in terms of that pyramid model, and how that model is a great model to understand TOK in general. I also wanted to introduce in more detail relativism, both the attractions and the problems of relativism, and how that, understood through ethics, that gives you a real insight of relativism for knowledge in general. Secondly, I also wanted to use this film to explain the relationship of language to a particular area of knowledge, in particular the naturalistic fallacy and the problem of analysing what is good. If you'd like me to go into detail with regard to any of the topics or themes discussed, please add your comments below. And one last thing, don't forget to smash the like button.